Let's just say the ratings aren't the same with Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever now eliminated. Game 1 of the Aces Liberty matchup on Sunday drew an average of 929,000 viewers. Was down nearly 50% from last Sunday's Fever Sun contest. By the way, not only was viewership down, but attendance was.
WNBA players are frustrated after Caitlin Clark's playoff exit, believing fan support has dropped because many aren't tuning in for the remaining games. The latest semifinal viewership stats paint a grim picture for the league. Since Clark's controversial elimination, fueled by questionable foul calls, ratings have taken a major hit, dropping by half. And with the playoffs continuing, the numbers may only get worse.
Either just say I told you so, or are you willing to say, Stephen A., you did tell us? Really? Caitlin Clark is the golden glove.
What kind of league treats its biggest star poorly all season, denies her team a home playoff game, and then watches its viewership tank with every passing round? The WNBA is the only league where advancing in the playoffs seems to drive fans away instead of drawing them in. Now, Caitlin Clark is heading to Europe for a supposed break, but with the way things are going, a lucrative EuroLeague offer might be hard to resist.
Team overseas who would love to snatch Caitlin Clark away from us and give her a crazy offer. I mean, Ice Cube was about to give her $5 million to play in less than 10 games. And
who could blame Caitlin if she took the deal? She'd make 10 times her current salary and finally get the respect she deserves. Meanwhile, the WNBA even robbed her of a unanimous Rookie of the Year win. Somehow, one voter picked Angel Reese instead. That voter needs to be called out publicly because this was never a debate.
Been unanimous.
Should have been. I agree. It should have been unanimous. And one of the things that sticks with me is, well, she was the first rookie to get a triple.
Viewership is plummeting by the minute, and the WNBA is finally feeling the full impact of the Caitlin Clark effect. Players are realizing what's been obvious all season. Fans want to see Caitlin, and without her, interest is fading fast. Even Aya Wilson is frustrated, admitting, "This year is the most I've ever seen people call my game boring." I'm like, okay, cool, whatever. Despite winning MVP, Aya's influence on the league doesn't come close to what Caitlin Clark has brought. The numbers speak for themselves.
So 28 years old, 1,000 points in the regular season. Why is that not the biggest story out at the moment? Why are we talking about Caitlin Clark?
Why, exactly. Why when Asia was releasing the shoe, were we talking about Caitlin?
The impact of Caitlin Clark's absence from the WNBA playoffs goes beyond just viewership numbers. It exposes a deeper issue within the league. The WNBA's audience is fragile, and its newfound momentum was heavily dependent on a single player. Clark wasn't just a star for the Indiana Fever. She was the driving force behind the league's surge in attention. When the Fever fell to the Connecticut Sun and Clark's rookie season ended, the immediate ratings drop was staggering. But more than that, it revealed an uncomfortable truth. The WNBA struggles to keep fans engaged without its biggest.
2023 season, the WNBA had grown by 40% viewership from 2022 to 2023. But with Caitlin Clark's arrival, it's grown by 400% viewership. What that means is if the WNBA were continue to grow at the rate it grew from 22 to 23, it would take until 2028 to do what Caitlin Clark did.
Viewership plummeted by more than half after Caitlin Clark's playoff exit, making it clear that she was the driving force behind a significant portion of the league's audience. This isn't a coincidence or a one-time fluke. It's undeniable proof of how much the WNBA relied on Clark's star power to keep fans engaged. Without her, the league's struggle to hold on to its audience has been fully exposed.
Since, Angel Reese had that injury to me, and also coming off of Olympic break, Caitlin Clark separated herself. Yeah. She should have been unanimous. Now to celebrate her, one thing that people forget is as a rookie, she was the most blitzed player in the WNBA, and she still put up 19, 5, and 8 assists.
This sharp decline in viewership is a major wake-up call for the WNBA. For years, the league has struggled with low ratings and attendance, but Caitlin Clark's breakout season offered a rare glimmer of hope. Her games consistently set viewership records, making it seem like the WNBA had finally turned a corner. However, with Clark out of the picture, it's clear that the league's newfound popularity wasn't as stable as it seemed. Without her in the playoffs, the WNBA has struggled to maintain excitement. Fans who tuned in to watch Clark had little reason to stick around, and while the remaining teams are competitive, they simply don't have the star power or charisma she brought to the game. As a result, the buzz surrounding the playoffs has noticeably faded.
Important effect on the NBA and the game of basketball. I would argue at one point early on there was a Steph Curry effect on the NBA and on basketball also. You bet your ass there is a Caitlin Clark effect on all of basketball and especially on women's basketball.
One of the most troubling aspects of Caitlin Clark's playoff exit is how it happened. All season long, she endured relentless physical play, often without consequence for those targeting her. Despite the WNBA's praise for her talent, the league failed to protect its biggest star the way a player of her caliber deserves. This wasn't just about a few missed calls. It was a season-long pattern of rough play that wore Clark down and ultimately contributed to the Fever's defeat. Instead of ensuring fair competition, the league allowed its most marketable player to be unfairly punished on the court, and now...
We don't want fans that are going to degrade us and call us names. I mean, we already see what's happening in the world. Something needs to be done, whether it's, them checking their fans or this league.
The series against the Connecticut Sun was a perfect example of this problem. Clark was repeatedly fouled, some of them hard, but the referees seemed hesitant to blow the whistle. It was as if the league didn't understand just how important it was to protect its biggest star. Fans watching at home grew increasingly frustrated as Clark was knocked around with little intervention from officials. This isn't just a one-time mistake. It highlights a deeper issue within the WNBA. Officiating, especially when it comes to physical play, has been a long-standing problem. But when the face of your league, the very player driving its resurgence, is subjected to this treatment, it becomes a much bigger issue. The WNBA simply cannot afford to let its most valuable star be beaten down, especially when she is so crucial to the league's growth and success.
Been impacting the WNBA well before this year. This is not a new thing. Sure. This is, and in that way, I do think Caitlin's being used as a pawn. Mm-hmm. Caitlin didn't bring systems to the WNBA. This has been happening. And that, I think, is what's been such a shock for all.
Caitlin Clark's breakout season wasn't just a personal triumph. It was a golden opportunity for the WNBA to expand its reach and showcase its full potential. Her games brought in viewers from across the country, many of whom had never watched a WNBA game before. This was the league's chance to capitalize on the excitement around Clark and turn new fans into lifelong supporters. But by failing to protect her, the WNBA squandered that opportunity. Fans saw exactly what happened. They watched Clark endure constant fouls with little to no officiating support. Now, social media is flooded with frustration, as many feel the league let her down. Instead of building on Clark's momentum, the WNBA allowed a preventable issue to overshadow its biggest moment.
Very, very few people, but there are some out there who resent the fact that this young white girl came out there and did her thing. Rookie of the year, 4th in the league for MVP voting, assist leader, one of the top leading scorers after the Olympic Games. She put on a show, validating all the attention she was receiving.
This has fueled a growing belief that the WNBA isn't doing enough to protect its stars, a problem that could have long-term consequences for fan loyalty. The league now finds itself in a precarious position. Caitlin Clark has done more for its growth in one season than many players do in an entire career. But if the WNBA fails to take action to protect her and other key players, it risks losing the very stars driving its success. This isn't just about game results, it's about the future of the league. If the WNBA wants to sustain its momentum, it must address these issues before it's too late.
Viewers for WNBA games that Caitlin Clark is not in is like 3 to 4 million. When she's in the game, when it's her game playing, it's like 17 million.
Yeah. Well, I also look at the attendance in the arena.
Yes.
It's 8 to 10,000 everywhere else. Caitlin Clark, 17, 18. Yeah.